Go ahead, Mr. Chair.
That's great. Thank you. And we now call this meeting to order of the Strategy Committee, our regular meeting of January. And firstly, I wonder, Marcin, whether we have additional guests in addition to our. Should we call a roll call first, Marcin?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So Steven Hernandez.
If you would. Could we call a roll call? I'm present.
Thank you. Grant Ritter, Paul Philpott, Paul Lombardo, Matthew Brackman. Mr. Brackman?
I am here. Sorry, I took my
Thank you. Thank you. And Mr. Sean King?
Here.
Thank you. We do have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
That's great. All right. If you would, are there members of the Access Health Connecticut team that would like to introduce themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. James Michelle, Chair, CEO of Access Health Connecticut.
Gina Walsh,
Great.
Director of Operations.
Marquis Davis, Director of IT.
Great. Is that everybody?
I don't think so. We still got a couple more folks to introduce themselves.
Yeah.
Yes. Holly Swick, Director of Finance.
Good afternoon. This is Rebecca McClear, Director of Technical Operations and Analytics.
Great.
Good afternoon, Susan Richby, Director of Legal and Governmental Affairs.
Caroline Roulette, Director of Marketing.
Don Carbone, Director of Product Broker Support, Product Development, and Small Group.
Good afternoon, everyone. Glenn Jurgen, Director of Human Resources.
Good afternoon, Tammy Hendricks, Director of Health Equity and Outreach.
I think now we're all set, Mr. Chairman.
That's great. Marcin, am I to understand that there is no public comment?
That's correct. But before we go forward, Mr. Chair, I would just like to mention that roll call will be taken for every action item. And this meeting is being recorded for the minute taking purposes, as well as for the posting of the recording of the proceedings on the agency's website.
That's great.
And yes, Mr. Chair, we did not receive any public comments for today's meeting.
That's great. Thank you. I think the first item on the agenda will be the acceptance of the minutes. Is that right, Marcin? The September 14, 2023 Strategy Committee minutes?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
That's great. So if we could entertain a motion for the minutes.
So moved, Matthew.
Oh, second, Sean.
Thank you. And if you could call a roll, Marcin.
Mr. Chair, is there any discussion on the motion before us?
Oh, is there discussion? Any discussion on the minutes? Great. Hearing none, if you could call the roll, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Steven Hernandez.
Yes.
Grant Ritter, Paul Philpott, Paul Lombardo, Matthew Brackman.
Yes.
Thank you. And Sean King.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. And now I believe that we have a presentation by the staff. Is that right?
Correct. James Michelle, Access of Connecticut. We want to share with the board a new project that we are working on. It's called ICRA. I'm going to ask John to give the committee an overview of what ICRA is and how it's going to benefit small businesses in Connecticut as well as Connecticut residents. Again, this is a very high overview of what we are working on. I encourage you to give us some guidance, and we look forward to your questions and comments. John?
Excellent. Thanks, James. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Carbone. I'm the Director of Broker Support, Product Development, and Small Group. Hope everybody's doing well. As some of you may know, over the past several months, we've been learning about and exploring the potential of introducing a new offering for small businesses owners and their employees called ICRA, Individual Coverage Health Reimbursement Accounts. We'd like to talk about this in more detail today and explain how this works and the potential that it has for Access Health and the small business community. With the small group health insurance marketing continuing to shrink, down 60% since 2014, we recognize not only is there an opportunity, but a need. Today's employees expect health insurance, but with rising costs, employers are finding it challenging to offer traditional group health insurance plans and need more flexibility and other options. We know that this can be a new flexible option that can give employers and the ability to offer a plan that works with them in their budget, gives the employee reduced healthcare costs, access to great plans, and as well as more ownership for their healthcare coverage. Ultimately, this will lead to a reduced number of those that are uninsured and a healthier population. So now I'd like to walk you through what ICHRA is. For those who are not familiar, go through the journey on how this works from a standpoint of an employee, the overview of the benefits for an employee and an employer, and what are the next steps that have to be taken by Access Health. So with that being said, we're going to talk a little bit about, what ICHRA is. Go back one slide, Martin. All right, so what ICHRA is, Individual Coverage Health Reimbursement Account. An individual coverage health reimbursement account available in 2019 is a type of health reimbursement arrangement in which an employer of any size group can reimburse an employee for all of the premiums that that employee pays for health insurance that they purchase on their own. ICHRA represents a departure from the previous ACA implementation rules that forbids an employer from reimbursing an employee for individual marketplace premiums. Qualified small employer health reimbursement arrangement, also known as QSERA, which became available in 2017, allows an employer of 50 and under to reimburse employees for individual marketplace premiums. But ICHRA allows this for employers of any size group and offers more flexibility in the terms of how much an employer can allow to reimburse that employee. So, Martin, next slide. So at this moment right now, we're going to go over a few different slides and we're going to walk you through a journey. So so at this moment, we're going to talk very, very high level of an employee called Mike and that journey of that employee. So on this slide, we're going to talk about the challenge. Mike is an employee of a small business that does not offer health insurance. He likes his job, but with an estimate of 7.4% increase in the small group plan cost in 2024, he's left to fend for himself when it comes to getting health insurance coverage. The opportunity that we feel that has is a change in the several federal regulations, including the IRS tax codes, allows Mike's employer to help offset the cost of an individual health plan coverage. How it's going to work. Mike's employer makes a decision to offer an ICHRA plan. With the employer's pre-tax dollars to a class of employees that includes Mike, the ICHRA offered to Mike will help him pay for healthcare coverages available through Access Health. Using the Access Health ICHRA platform, Mike's employer will work with their broker to determine if ICHRA is offered to Mike is affordable. If the ICHRA is affordable, Mike can enroll in a health plan from Access Health and seek reimbursement from the ICHRA account, but he will not be eligible for financial help in a form of advanced premium tax credits or cost sharing reductions. If the ICHRA is not affordable for Mike, then the employer/broker will use the platform to help Mike determine his eligibility for financial help offered by Access Health. If Mike is eligible and wants the financial help, he has to opt out of receiving the ICHRA from his employee. So the overall journey here, next slide, Martin. So Mike's ICHRA's journey, we're going to kind of go through it. So health covered options are evaluated by the employer and an ICHRA is chosen. Employees get set up on our ICHRA platform. Employers are classified by each employee based on 10 different permissible types of classes. I'm just going to name a few here for today. I'll give you an example. Full-time can be a class, part-time, seasonal workers, temporary workers, salary worker, hourly workers, workers under collective bargaining agreements. Mike's eligibility for group versus individual with an ICHRA is determined by his employer through the initial analysis. Employers' education begins on the ICHRA platform. Mike shops the Access Health platform portal and chooses a plan that's right for him. Next slide, Martin. How does this benefit Mike? Mike enjoys a reduced healthcare cost thanks to employee pre-tax contributions into an ICHRA, or the possibility of federal subsidies if eligible, but not both. With 22 plan choices for Mike, he has the freedom to choose the healthcare coverage that best fits his needs at the right price point. Super important. The employer benefits here. Small business stay competitive, reduce the risk of this employee like Mike leaving. Pre-tax employer contribution reduces the amount that must be paid by the individual healthcare premiums. Employers can stay in the fully insured market and offer a certain class of employees while reducing the cost and offering richer healthcare options through these classes using ICHRA. So some of our next steps to go forward after today, how Access Health is going to activate ICHRA to help employees like Mike and reduce the rate of the uninsured. Access Health is going to issue a RFP to select a vendor to help brokers go through the analysis and work with small business owners to determine if ICHRA is the right choice. This is a very complicated product, so we need to make sure we have the right platform and the right tools so the broker community and the employer community can help that employee make the right decision. If ICHRA is the right choice for that employer and employee, a solution is going to be created for that employee to enroll through the Access Health HIC system. So we're really excited. As you can see, this is the beginning stages of this, and we are in the process of kind of moving along and going through the RFP process. So that's all for right now. James?
Thank you, John. And thank you for hearing us out today. I encourage you, if you have any questions for us at all, please, I encourage you to ask us those questions. New, it's different. It's evolving. Connecticut will be the first exchange to have this version of what we're doing. And again, what we want to do is give small businesses options to give their employees more choices in picking plans for themselves. Right now, if you work for a small business, the only thing you have available to you is that one or two plans that your employer may offer, and typically the coverage is nowhere near what we have on the exchange. So through this process, the employees will have choices of 22 plans on the exchange, and they may qualify for subsidized health insurance in the form of APTCs, and some may even qualify for cost sharing. So they get a better health insurance at lower cost to purchase insurance as well as to use the insurance plan. So we think this is once this is up and running, this should be a win-win across the board for small businesses because this reduces their costs, but also it also expands the pool of the individual health insurance marketplace in the state of Connecticut. So I'll stop there and answer any questions. I see, Mr. Chairman, I see Sean King has a question.
Yes, please go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, a couple of questions. One, the first question is there a minimum amount that employers would have to contribute to the ICHRA if they participated?
So there is not a minimum amount. You know, an employer can contribute up to $50. They can contribute up to the whole cost of the premium. That's going to deem if it's going to be affordable or unaffordable at that time based on the classes.
And that sort of ties into my next question is how does this integrate with the employer mandate? You said employers of any size can use this tool, but does this create like a safe harbor for larger employers, or are they still subject to the mandate and potentially penalized if an employee receives tax credits on the exchange? What's the interaction between those?
If we probably had about an hour, I'd give you the answer. Let me get you the regs on that I can share to you, which will basically straight from the IRS and explains how they kind of view this product. Because these are the regs from the IRS. So let me get that stuff for you in writing so you can read through it. I think it'll be easier that way.
It's
I'm not
usually
trying
easier to get a
explain the IRS
summary.
stuff.
Summary of
John,
IRS regulations.
so
Sounds like a
Susan,
threat.
Susan,
Sorry,
can
Sean.
you chime in?
Yeah,
Can you chime in,
yeah.
Susan? Thank you.
Thank you, James. Hey, Sean, Susan
Thanks.
Richby.
Yeah.
The employer mandate for large employers still applies, but they can use it just to, say this shortly. They can use the ICRA contribution in the same way that they would be using the contribution they make towards, an offer of employer coverage. It's treated as if it was employer coverage. So the amount would be subject to that same affordability amount, to meet their obligation to offer. And then the individual plan offered on the exchange obviously meets the minimum value. Those are the two components. But then, as John mentioned, depending on the amount that they contribute, will factor into whether they're eligible for a tax credit or not.
Okay, so that is in fact connected to the employer's minimum contribution. They can't just contribute, a token amount per month to the ICRA and then say, well, we're not subject to the employer mandate anymore.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
And the small employers, though, are in a different place as far as the employer
Sure.
mandate. But for large employers, yes, that's correct.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
So another thing I want to add to that, while our initial target will be small businesses, we think that's where the sweet spot is for us, and particularly small nonprofits who struggles with providing health insurance coverage for their employees. But that's going to be our initial focus when we roll this out. However, we think that, but as John and Susan indicated, any employer, there's no limit to what the size of employers who want to participate in this.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's great. Are there great questions? Are there any other questions?
Yeah, it's Matt Brown. Quick question. I think this is super exciting.
Yeah.
I had two questions. One, hey, what do you all think the timeline is in terms of rollout? And then, did you think we stand up? And then two is, does this create any, with the exception of our small business play, I presume this requires some level of tracking on how much is an employer giving to each individual employee's account, things along those lines that may change over time. Does this create, what's the sort of potential complications for the technological backend for the exchange for you all?
Matt, because the platform that we're going to procure will track all of that. So we will not be creating anything from scratch. We'll get a vendor that has this type of technology in place already. You just got to configure it to meet our needs and our employers' needs and the brokers' needs. So we don't believe that's going to be an issue for us. The timeline, as you might imagine, is we're looking at about, John, help me out, John, are we looking at a 12 to 18 month timeline to get this up and running?
Correct.
So the goal is, Matt, is to have hopefully have this up and running by, if everything goes perfectly, by next open enrollment. That's a pretty aggressive timeline, but we think we think with hard work and focus we could get there. And by the way, because the small businesses, so it's a open enrollment will be continuous throughout the year, not just tied to just November through December. It'll be year-round open enrollment for small businesses.
Right. So the employees would have the opportunity to, whenever the employer jumps in, the employees would then have the opportunity to shop, even if it's not our December window. Got it.
Exactly.
They get a special enrollment period, just like if they had an employer plan that ended mid-year, if they get offered an ICRA in the middle of the calendar year, that qualifies them. And just to add on to what John said, sorry, this is Susan again. in addition to helping the employer make the decision about what's the best financial option for them and their employees, there are administrative burdens on the employer using an ICRA. And so I think our goal too is to have the platform help take care of that, help them take care of those administrative responsibilities as well, to package it all in there.
And do we, in putting my finance committee hat on, do we take the resources for the platform procurement from reserves? What are we thinking there?
No, no, we're not going to do anything with reserves. And right now, and again, this is the first. We don't know how much it's going to cost. We still work out the details, but we wanted to make the strategy committee aware of this before we do anything at all. Get your input, but before we finalize anything, if there's any additional cost to our budget, we'll go back to the board and come up with a way to pay for it. But again, we don't know that. Matt, we think that the vendor will pay for this because John, you could talk a little bit more about how the vendor platform is going to make, how they're going to charge for this. And again, there may even be a possibility for us to bring some additional income to Access Health as well. John, can you speak as to how the vendors would pay for this? How would they earn a revenue by going through this?
Absolutely. So, Matt, there are several different types of models out there. I always give an example, and as I gave kind of our SLT the other day, about a couple of years ago, there was probably about 100 players in this marketplace that kind of had like a technology platform, and it was very kind of bottom of the, it still needed to be, reworked, and kind of everybody was coming into it trying to figure it out. As over the past year and a half, we're up to about 250 plus different types of vendors that are doing that. And each of them have completely different models. There are some that have the traditional enrollment platforms to where they'll charge us a PMPM to do all the work. And then some of them, because they have a financial link to this and have to set up a banking accounts, they actually reimburse us to basically have those members come on the platform. So based on what the RFP is going to bring back and what's going to best fit our needs, we're going to try to figure out how it's going to work for Access Health on a revenue wise, or is this going to be a cost to us? So stay tuned to that. Well, the RFP is going to be pretty robust. We're working on that and the scope of work to make sure it fits into everything we're doing going forward. So we'll definitely bring back all those different types of scenarios.
And Matt, the objective here, obviously, our first option would be how do we roll this out, and if there's an opportunity for us to get some type of fee from the vendor. The vendor may be charging the small employer a fee per member per month, and we would share in that revenue stream. But there will be some additional cost to us for marketing and outreach and so forth to go into the communities. But the platform itself, we believe the vendor will absorb the lion's share of that cost because it benefits them. It gives them an opportunity for them to make money. But again, all that will be spelled out on the RFP. See who respond, how they respond, and what's the best option available to Access Health based on the vendor's response to us. At that point, we'll go back to the board and present to this committee first the options available to us, and at that point we'll do the cost analysis. Bring it back to you. But if there's an additional cost to us, we will obviously do a cost benefit analysis, then come back with a recommendation for the board.
No, I think it's really exciting. When we do that cost benefit analysis, I would encourage us all to think about if the per member per month, like I understand the idea that the vendor may find a way that, they want to hit a charge up on the employer, but that may also jack back up the price of the insurance. And our goal is to be competitive here to bring more folks onto the exchange. So it may be short-term disadvantageous for us to have to use resources to build this, but it may be long-term advantageous because it means we bring in more customers.
Absolutely.
So I think, right, and this really is better healthcare, but from a business perspective, this is part of the discussion around, is this better than stop loss, right? And when you move out of the healthcare marketplace, that hurts our impact in terms of the assessment. These folks will
Right.
all be assessed, I assume.
Correct. So Matt, the bigger picture here is to offer an alternative to the association health plans for small businesses, and at the same time, we're expanding the the individual marketplace, which means in 2 years from when they enroll, those premium dollars will be available to be assessed by us. Again, that's going to be part of our cost benefit analysis. Maybe we invest a couple of dollars now, but we will increase our revenue stream 2 to 3 years later. Needless to say, we are very excited about this, to offer this to Connecticut residents, to Connecticut small businesses. Done right, this could really benefit the business community.
Are there any further questions? That's great. This is great, James.
Thank you.
Great. I think, is there anything more with this presentation?
No, stay tuned. We'll come back with more as this evolves. We'll come back to this committee. We are going to give the board a heads up on this as well next Thursday. But we felt very strongly it was appropriate to come to the strategy committee first, because this is a new strategic initiative that we are taking on.
That's great. Good. So hearing no further questions, and on that note, if you'd like to move on to the next section of the agenda, which is the new initiatives.
Yes. Again, this is very early in the stages of our 10 Clicks project. I'm going to turn it over to Gina. She's leading this effort for us. Gina is our head of operations. While this is a technology solution, but we wanted the focus to be on our customers. So the customer service is going to drive this, because that's going to be the focus of this project. Technology will be a tools on how do we improve the process to make it easier for Connecticut residents to apply for health insurance to access health. Gina?
Thanks, James. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gina Walsh. I'm the Director of Operations, and I'll be giving the update on the 10 Clicks or Less initiative today. So Access Health has had the same enrollment system since we began as an exchange about 11 years ago, with improvements obviously made to the system over the years. When a consumer currently enrolls through our system, they're asked many questions to determine their eligibility. The time it takes for a consumer to fill out an application, it can take anywhere from 15 minutes to 40 plus minutes, depending on household size or what they're actually applying for. But this length of time is burdensome for our consumers who don't always have the time to spend on the process. And then also our consumers don't always have all the information needed to enroll themselves and their families at their fingertips, and they have to come back. So when they don't have this information, they then have to recontact our call center. If they're working with a broker, they'll have to go back to the broker or call the broker back. Or if they're at an assistor's, a navigator or CAC's office, they'd have to go back to them with that information. So once they've gathered it. So the focus of the 10 Clicks project is to reduce these barriers that our customers face when they're enrolling. In doing so, we can help decrease health disparities and lower the rate of uninsured individuals. We want our enrollment system to be more dynamic than it is today, and make the process of enrolling for our consumers simpler. And for the system to intuitively ask questions based on responses it has already received through the application process. So it's not asking duplicate questions. We want data fields to pre-populate so that there's less data entry for our consumers or on the consumer's part. And for the consumer just to verify, just one click there that the information is correct that populated. These are just some of the functionalities that can simplify the enrollment system and really make a difference to our consumers and have it a lot faster and simpler and understandable for them to go through. Our next steps on this project, as James had mentioned, we are in the very beginning stages, but we have formed an internal committee, and we meet regularly to keep driving this process forward. We are in the process of developing a project plan and a strategy. Back in September of 2023, we had an initial brainstorming session, and we are on our way to have additional follow-ups to those work sessions at the end of this month. So very excited about that. We have also been meeting with other exchanges and seeing demos of their enrollment systems, which has been very eye-opening. You know, we're learning a lot of new things. And those that have made system changes, we're talking to them about their lessons learned, like what went well, what should we watch out for? And it's been very valuable, very eye-opening. So great to partner with the other exchanges. So we're very excited about this project. Are there any questions from the group?
None for me, no.
Love it.
Mr. Chairman, just very quickly, this is we are talking about changing our entire technology solution, if need be, because we're going to do an assessment of what we have in place now, which we have been doing. We know where our system is failing our customers, because we track where people get stuck, where they stop the application processing, never come back. So we have all that data. But more importantly, we are talking about a 12-year-old system that had not been updated since we started using it. Again, as Jenna indicated, we've done some on the edges, made some improvements, add on to it. Like we did dental a couple years ago, integrated, but the system is still being used the exact same way it was developed back in 2012 and 2013. And you just imagine all of the advancements that have taken place across across all technology platforms that we are not able to take advantage of because our system is so old. So the intent is to bring it into the current world. Again, in technology, 10 years is a lifetime. So the question is, how do we get it up to a place where our customers enjoy better customer experience, but more importantly, make it a lot easier for them to apply for health insurance and helping us to achieve our goal of lowering the uninsured and helping to address health disparities. We think that there's funding, grant funding available, federal grant dollars, as well as maybe some private grant dollars, because of the intent of this project is to help lower the uninsured and help address health disparities. As always, we will partner with DSS to see if there are any CMS dollars that we could procure through DSS's Medicaid commitments with the federal government to pay for this. As you know, when any applicant comes to Access Health, we don't know if they're going to be Medicaid or QHP until they go through the application process. So we think this funding done appropriately can be fully funded or mostly funded by the federal government. So again, we are in the early stages of developing, updating our system, revamping our system to make it easier and faster for all Connecticut residents who want to apply for health insurance that come to Access Health, whether they're Medicaid or QHP. Again, we're going to design it in such a way where we could add to it as necessary, even small businesses if necessary. So again, we are working very hard to make it easier and faster for all Connecticut residents to get access to health insurance. So more to come on that as we develop this.
Thank you, James. And just the way that these things work together, right? Increasing the risk pool just to minimize cost and minimize risk, but also increasing accessibility so that especially the most vulnerable populations that quite frankly don't have the time to be distracted or be clicking endlessly, without results. These two things together really tell a story about the exchange that I think is worth telling.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a quick update for you on Medicaid Online.
Mm-hmm. Yes, go ahead, please.
Caroline?
Hi, Caroline Ruette here, Director of Marketing at AHCT, and I'm here to provide a cross-departmental update about Medicaid unwinding. Before we jump into the slide details, I did want to say, because I am presenting on behalf of several departments, I do have my peers here ready to help answer any questions, should there be questions outside of marketing about the unwinding. So let's jump in. In terms of data, technical operations and analytics, this data was pulled together as of the 31st of December. There were over 5,000 individuals enrolled in the Covered Connecticut program coming out of the unwind. 8,716 individuals enrolled in a qualified health plan without that Covered Connecticut benefit, and a little over 242,000 individuals re-enrolled in Medicaid or CHIP, and 18,225 individuals that have indicated they are not requesting or not receiving health insurance elsewhere. Either they have it covered or they have coverage through Medicare, an employer, or somewhere else. So that's an update on where we stand from a numbers perspective. And then moving into operations, the call center has ramped up to 350 agents as of the 31st for open enrollment. As we all know, right, unwinding was continually going on during that open enrollment period that we are just ending in a couple of days. And so it's really important for us to have increased the staff there to be able to handle all of the calls that are coming in. In terms of statistics there, the call center handled 771,692 calls from April 1st through December 31st, and that is a 31% increase from the prior year. So we are seeing that increase at the call center and have staffed up to account for that. And the average wait time for this period was 3 minutes and 53 seconds. Next slide, please. In addition to support this population as they come off of Medicaid potentially, there's a lot of in-person outreach as well as traditional marketing to help from a messaging perspective to let them know where they can get help and, of course, going to get that help. So the Health Equity and Outreach team continues the monthly meetings. Those are for consumers as well as community partners and certified application counselors. So there's a variety of different types of meetings to serve all of these populations. Additionally, we have enrollment staff present at several navigator locations as well as community organizations throughout the state, really, making sure that we have people to meet people where they are so that we can capture that enrollment. And then, of course, those one-day fairs, right, when we have them after hours during the week or on a weekend, making sure that we're available for people depending on the time that they have to meet with us. And we have that marketing campaign. It continues to support those outreach events. So we're doing geo-targeted emails. So depending on where people are located throughout the state, if we're having an event in their backyard and we have their email address, we're proactively reaching out to them, letting them know. We also have social media, both paid and organic. So whether or not people follow our page on social media, we're also doing some advertising there so that we can blanket the state and let folks know, even if they don't follow us on social media, if they're living in Connecticut, we're very likely to show up in their social media results. And of course, we're working with the local media as well to get some news stories and community calendar placements for those events. Additionally, that marketing campaign that paused as open enrollment marketing materials became in market, that marketing campaign is going to resume right after our open enrollment campaign ends. And just a small reminder, some of our materials for the open enrollment period did include some messaging specific for the unwinding audience. So it's not like that message was dropped altogether. We just wanted to make sure that we were heavy up on the message. And we kind of continue to do our direct-to-consumer marketing throughout the open enrollment period too. This has been really important to reach these people because we know who they are, right? We can get in touch directly with them. And so we have done our direct mail campaign as well as texting and emailing. And I should note that, this has been a really big joint effort between Access Health CT as well as the Department of Social Services. So they're hearing from both state agencies, depending on who they know, who they have more trust in. They're really hearing the same message. And so we are really happy about the work that we've been able to do with the Department of Social Services to reach this population. And I will pause there for any questions.
None from me, but thank you.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Any questions? Thank you. James, do we have a Broker Academy update? Is that looking?
Yes, we do. We do. I'm going to ask
We
Tammy to
do.
give that up there very quickly. Tammy?
Great. Thank you, James. Good afternoon, everyone. Tammy Hendricks, Director of Health Equity and Outreach. Happy New Year. It's that time of year again to start recruitment for the Broker Academy. We are really excited to launch year 3. We've learned so much and we continue to improve on the program. So first, shortly after the last class last June, we added a contact form to the Broker Academy webpage. We found that we were getting a lot of interest from folks who heard about the program right after the last deadline. So we added this form to capture contact information right from the webpage, so folks didn't have to email us directly. And then we automatically added them to the email distribution list that we have so they can get notified when the program starts up again and they can apply. So it's been going great. We have 56 really strong leads going into year 3. And I think people are really seeing the value after interacting with our graduates and the community so far, especially during the Medicaid Unwind and this past open enrollment for us. So, and that increased interest can be seen on our website traffic as well. Last month, we had over 422 visits compared to 190 visits in December of 2022. And folks are staying on the webpage a little bit longer as well. So we're seeing that the map is also showing that locations of the website visitors have grown significantly as well. A more even spread throughout the major targeted cities and communities that have higher uninsured rates. And we've also seen some growth in rural areas too. So all great things as we move into year 3. I'll give you a quick breakdown of the program details and timelines. The timeline very similar to last year, but we've made a few changes. First, the application will open from March 1st to 31st. We want to accept 80 students this year, and they will be spread between 2 class locations, which we're still working out the details on those locations. We've added an extra week for our program readiness meetings, and these are weekly meetings that we hold for students to prepare them for the in-person class. So usually we do this the month before class. So it'll be the last week of April and all through the month of May. And we know how important these meetings are for students based on year 1 and 2, the feedback, really helping them feel comfortable before going into the in-person class days. The other change is the in-person class schedule. So we will have 5 days like we did last year, but this year we will only cover the health portion of the course, which will take 3 days. Life insurance course will be offered to students if they're interested as well, but it won't be covered during the in-person class. And we did this because we wanted to allow for more time to cover materials versus squeezing in the life insurance portion of the class into those 5 days that we have the students. And this also allows for an extra day dedicated to reviewing materials, which is really important for the state exam. And because we're able to fit in that review day, the students will be more prepared. So we are going to have them come back that following Friday to take the state exam online in the classroom. So I know this may seem like a very accelerated timeline, but based on feedback, we think it'll be very helpful for the students in a few ways. First, the exam has been a huge hurdle for many students. And so having the students be able to take it in the actual class that they took, the health course, will be really important because they'll be in a familiar place and setting. So we're hoping that will ease a lot of the fears and nerves. You know, as we've stated before, a lot of the students haven't been in class for years, maybe decades even. So we're hoping that having them take the state exam in the classroom that they took the course will help with that. And we also want to get them to take that state exam right after taking the course. And so while the information is fresh in their minds, they'll be able to take that state exam and hopefully pass on the first try. But I say all of that to say because it's really important that we did that 1 week course so that the students could then have more time for the mentorship portion of the program, which we all know is very important for hands-on experience. So as they pass the state exam on that Friday, we're able to match them up with mentors much earlier in the summer, allowing for more hands-on experience. So a lot of great changes, and we're hoping that it will lead to more increased retention, but more importantly, getting those students through the state exam as comfortable as possible and getting them to pass. That's all the updates I have so far. James, did I miss something?
Very quickly, tell you one note that we're going to be presenting to the board next Thursday the result of the most recent open enrollment, and our numbers are off the charts. We've exceeded everything that we've ever done on dental, QHP. Again, Calvert, Connecticut, we are over 26,000. And talk about the role the graduates from the Broker Academy have played in the in-person events that we've had across the state since last March.
Sure. So as you all know, the Medicaid unwind was a huge task for us. How do we reach all those folks that are going to be going through the renewal process? So we've been holding enrollment fairs since, I believe, June, shortly after the unwind had begun. And the Broker Academy students play a huge role in the in-person fairs. First, they are there to help consumers, but because we targeted a lot of the areas that have higher uninsured rates, they ended up being areas that the brokers were very familiar with. A lot of them saw their friends and families coming through these centers and the fairs, and they were able to help a lot of folks that maybe we might not have been able to reach on our own. So they participate in all of our in-person fairs and presentations, and they're really reaching out to folks that maybe we might not have gotten on our own.
This is great. Any further reflections or any questions? This is wonderful. I really appreciate the updates. You know, this is one of those innovations, I think, James, that it aligns so well with our mandate, and at the same time has so many different types of lasting outcomes. So thank you for that.
You're welcome, sir.
Any further comments or questions? And if not, could we entertain a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Great. Thank you. Marcin, if you could call the roll.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Steven Hernandez,
Yes.
Grant Ritter, Paul Philpott, Paul Lombardo, Matthew Brackman,
Yes.
and Sean King.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, team, and thank you to my colleagues. And great presentation, great meeting.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Great information.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye all.
Thank you all. Ciao.